organism. So what we came about was I came out of a powerlifting background, and a lot of what you do with high intensity plyometrics is you're trying to create muscle dominance. You're trying to create, especially if you do the plyometrics properly, you're loading the posterior chain, especially if you're sitting back in things like squat jumps. So you want to turn on the posterior chain and make an athlete more posterior chain dominant rather than quad dominant. You're going to do a lot of single leg plyometric hop to hold, hop, hop, hop exercises, hop up, down exercises, where you're going to try to create leg to leg symmetry. Symmetry not only front to back between posterior and anterior chain in the lower extremity, but side to side symmetry on strength, power, control, balance measures, and also plyometrics and multiple hops and holds are great for creating core control, especially with the center of mass over the foot base with the hip and the knee in a stable neutral configuration. So we started with plyometrics. We also did strength training as well, especially posterior chain strength training, a lot of balance type of exercise, but very dynamic balance exercises that we're going to translate onto the field and onto the core, and then core control exercises that could start maybe, you know, on a ball or another kind of, you know, feet off the ground exercise, but then bring them onto the feet into dynamic situations of core control. And I would say, you know, everyone says, what is one thing you would do if you could do anything? And I would say single leg plyometric exercises, sitting back, activating not only the core, but the posterior chain with the core, the center mass of the body over the plantar surface of the foot, with the hip and knee flexed and in a stable neutral frontal plane configuration. If you can do that repeatedly and then teach an athlete to do that under stress, under perturbation, you can reduce the risk of a non-contact injury in that athlete.
So to what degree should people that are observing or assessing these athletes, should they look at the foot, or is there any importance in looking at the foot and ankle?
Absolutely. There's importance in looking at the foot and ankle, because that's where the force is coming from. And the torques created around the knee joint are created by that ground reaction force that is directed toward the umbilicus, the body's center of mass. And where that foot, well, first of all, how that foot lands. Because a non-contact ACL injury always, and I will tell you this, I will challenge you or any of your listeners to show me or send me a link to a video where that foot doesn't land flat on the ground during an ACL injury. The foot lands flat. If you can teach that athlete to always roll the foot, use the foot as a rocker, the ground reaction force goes down significantly. Just telling an athlete to land more softly can drop the ground reaction force by 50% or more. So that's a starting point. Rolling the foot, not landing with a flat foot, using that foot as a rocker to dissipate force. That's actually a crucial part of it. And there are multiple ways to do that. One is just your ears. So for example, my office where I used to write the grants to fund all this work sat right off of our training area, and we had a specialized giving surface, and we would bring entire teams of kids in and train them all at once. So you bring in 35 adolescent girls and you put them out on a surface and you're in there writing a grant and trying to focus. It sounds like, let's not even talk about the chatter. Their feet landing from doing repeated squat jumps it sounds like cattle literally hitting the floor. It's just pounding. Then you have a 225-pound bald man come out on the floor and say, kids, we gotta quiet this down. I'm in here working. If I don't get this grant, we're not going to be able to fund these studies and your training. And all of a sudden, it literally immediately everything quiets down. Now, what are they doing? They're rolling their foot more, unconsciously rolling their foot more and flexing their hip and knee more and absorbing those forces and not landing with a flat foot. So yes, the foot is what creates that ground reaction force. So yes, it's absolutely critical to teach rolling the foot and not landing flat-footed.
When you say rolling the foot, are you talking from the heel to the front or vice versa?
Either way, usually what it depends. So if you're landing off a vertical jump, you want to go forefoot to midfoot rocker. Uh-huh. Whereas if you're coming forward during a cut, you want to go, midfoot to forefoot rocker. You want to, again, stay off any situation. You don't want heels down. Mm-hmm. So you want to rock from mid to forefoot.
Mm-hmm. And from frontal plane motion, what are you looking for? Or is that important?
It is important. You're just looking for a stable neutral position, not a lot of side to side roll. You want, because again, the problem when you get a lot of frontal plane motion, the major drivers in the lower extremity are not on either side of your legs. They're not designed to absorb and dissipate this and a lot of motion. You just want to stabilize that and keep that in neutral position, hips over knees, over the balls of the feet, with stabilized, relatively small amounts of ankle, knee, and hip roll. And then you want to use sagittal plane flexion and from the foot, sagittal plane rocking motion to dissipate force. Because again, that's the primary movers of the lower extremity. That's how they're most efficiently designed to absorb and dissipate force from the floor.
Mm-hmm. Hear the entire episode for free on iTunes, Spotify, other favorite podcast players, or go to mechanicalcareforum.com.